Hi,
Hey,
hello everyone, yay! And welcome to the OCD Gamechangers first fireside chat of 2021. Yes, this
I'm
is
excited.
awesome, yay! We took a little bit of a break from doing fireside chats. It was I just they all coincided right when the holidays were, so we kind of took a couple weeks off, and here we are. We're going to do a few firesides this month, and then moving forward I think we're probably going to do one per month, and then one Monday Maverick, which we'll be doing a Monday Maverick this Monday, which is super exciting. We haven't been live, I don't think, since our big fundraiser that took place on December 12th, and I just wanted to say thank you, a big thank you to everybody who joined, everybody who was there, everybody who donated. How special was it to end the year with so much support from our community? Because we really worked hard this last year in building community, and we plan on doing the same thing in 2021. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. So if you really want to put some goals of donating this year, put Gamechangers on your list. We could always use it. And we're going to have a lot of really cool stuff coming up this year. I don't want to give away anything just yet, but just stay tuned when we do our Fireside Fridays and our Monday Mavericks, and you will find out. So today, I'm going to actually let Ashley, who's been on here before. She was on for a Monday Maverick a couple months ago. And then I was like, oh, you're coming on in January. We get on.
We just had too much fun, too much to talk about.
It was supposed to be like promote what Ashley does. And then, of course, we went like deep into topics, including the one we're going to talk about today. So I was super excited to have you back on. It's so great to always get your input, and you're so much fun. Introduce yourself to the people who may be watching.
Yep. So I'm Ashley Smith. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I specialize in the treatment of anxiety and OCD. I've done that for more years than I can count. So it's something that I feel really strongly about, very passionate about. And then in kind of the other arm of it is I'm someone who also deals with a disability. I'm legally blind, so that's kind of my burden to bear. And with that, I'm super, super passionate about helping people really live big, bold lives that line up with what's important to them, regardless of what cards you've been dealt. So to me, it's really important that we start or continue to really break down stigma around mental health, and that we can just promote thriving and flourishing. And whether that's you have OCD as part of the picture and are trying to live a big, bold life, or something else. That's what I'm really, really driven to do.
So these are some of the things that I found out about you that I did not know the first time we went live on Monday Mavericks. And in our discussion about everything, we like dove into this toxic positivity, and I was like just chomping at the bit to want to tell my true feelings about positivity and how toxic it is, and especially when it comes to living with chronic illness. So here we are. We're going to talk about it. We're really going to pretend like we're in front of a campfire. I should take my computer out there in front of my fire, but I'm not going to.
Oh, that would be so cozy.
I know. I need to start doing that somehow. I don't know how my husband would feel, but if I brought everybody into our living room. Anyway, toxic positivity. This is the topic for today. So you are joining us, and you're going to find out what toxic positivity is. You're going to find out what our opinions are about it, and feel free to share what you think about it as well. But I'm going to have Ashley tell us first what it is and what that means.
Yeah. So, you know, I spend a lot of time talking with people about thoughts. I spend a lot of time thinking about thinking and attitudes and dealing with stuff. And I'm a nerd about how the brain works and being able to hack the system. I have a point, and I'm going to get to the definition here, but I really like understanding, how the brain works. And we have a natural negativity bias. Our brain is wired to notice the negative stuff faster than it notices neutral or positive, and to hold on to it so that negative stuff gets encoded in our memory 10 times faster than positive stuff does. Wow. And then, because our brain has this amazing thing, it's called neuroplasticity, which is just the brain's ability to reorganize itself. So think about it as just mental habits, right? It's like those speed bumps that you drive over in those really annoying parking lots. Like they're the grooves that are worn in them the more and more people ride right over them, our brain does the same thing. So we have this natural negativity bias, which means we notice the negative, we remember the negative, and then we notice it more, we remember it more, we notice it more, and that becomes a habit, a really well-worn habit. So to me, then it's all right, we can also use neuroplasticity to our advantage. You can hack the system and train your brain. I mean, that's what ERP is all about, is you're using your behaviors to build new pathways in your brain to really help combat OCD and those natural tendencies there, or the habits that develop. So then it comes in, cool, I'm going to train my brain to be positive, right? To notice the positive, to remember the positive. And frankly, I'm all for it. There's some good research behind that. I'm a big fan of a gratitude practice, a big fan of savoring, which is where you really intentionally focus on the good and hold it in your mind, because it takes 10 times longer to make it to memory. So you got to savor it, or it's like it didn't happen. But somewhere along the way, this idea of it became, well, just think positive, just be positive. And then it got freaking twisted, right? Then it became this, what I would call toxic positivity, which is where you're actually using positive thinking in this just look on the bright side in a really unhelpful, even hurtful kind of way. And so from my perspective, I think in any given situation, there are positives and negatives. And, this is a really long answer, but one story that stands out. I heard a podcast interview several years ago, a woman named Gerda, and it was my business partner hosts the Building Psychological Strength podcast, and her name's April. She had interviewed Gerda years ago when she was first starting out, and I listened to it, and this woman was a Holocaust survivor. She was in the concentration camps as a teenager and survived, and was talking about her experiences. And she said, no one ever talks about the good part of the Holocaust. And I was like, what do you mean good parts of the worst human atrocity ever? But her point was, amidst all of the awfulness, there were some bright spots, like compassion among other survivors and this. And so I took that of, okay, in any given situation, there's negatives, there's positives there if you can find them, if you can look for them. So to me, now what she didn't say was, I really loved being in a concentration camp. That was an awesome experience. I'm so glad that happened. She didn't say that. Like, that would be.
Thank goodness, Gerda. I'm glad she did not.
It'd be messed up. But that's the difference to me between what I think is helpful positive thinking is balanced, where you're acknowledging the good and the bad. Toxic positivity is where you are almost pretending like the bad doesn't exist. You're trying to minimize it. Like, oh, 2020 was a really awesome year. That's great. And I think the harm comes because you are denying the reality. Like, when you deny the pain and when you deny the reality of the situation, I don't find that helpful at all. It's, I think, equally harmful as being overly negative and denying the positive side of stuff. So I really like to shoot for that balanced. That makes sense.
I have so much. I've already written a page of notes over here.
Jump in.
First of all, I want to say thank you for bringing up the example about the Holocaust. I may have shared this on a fireside already. So if you've heard it, sorry, I'm going to say it again because it was that important. I listened to a podcast with Brené Brown and David Kessler, I think is his name. And he's he's kind of well-known in like the grief realm. And I was trying to come to grips with what is really going on. How do I process all this? Where's my place in all this pandemic shit? And they were talking about grief. And one of the things that Kessler said, which changed everything for me, was when you are dealing with a traumatic experience, it is not your job to find a silver lining.
Right.
You do not have to find a silver lining. You do not have to find the positive things that happen. And that was what frustrated me about the pandemic. Was the first month, all these people jumping on social media, let me try to find the silver lining of this. And I was just like, no, y'all can back off because it's not helpful. And he said, you don't have to find the silver lining, but what you can find is inside a traumatic experience, you can find moments of joy. You can find moments that are meaningful. And I thought it was really sweet because he said, I'm finding this moment with you right now, Brene. And it was, I loved it. I thought, oh my gosh, that's what we do. We don't have, because if the goal is to find a silver lining, we might fail.
Well, I think too, along those lines, I mean, it's the same thing as Gerda saying, right? Like in the midst of the pain, find the bright spots. But I think with the silver lining thing, I'm all for it after, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you get through a traumatic event, then you have to make meaning, right? How am I going to heal from this? Part of that is finding the meaning in it. And then maybe you can find the silver lining.
Mm-hmm.
I think when people try to jump to that too soon, that's where I think the harm actually comes in, because you're not allowing yourself to actually feel the pain,
Mm-hmm.
to actually acknowledge what you're going through. And frankly, when really traumatic things are happening, when hard things are happening, it's really weird to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
That's not normal or natural, right? Emotions are there to give us messages about a situation. Happy means everything is okay. I'd like it to continue this way.
Mm-hmm.
How twisted would that be to be, and whether it's struggles with OCD or other illness or the loss of somebody or 2020, like how weird would it be to sit there and be, I'm so happy? That's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
We have to, the term that goes through my mind is embrace the suck. And I'm pretty sure I got that from Brene Brown too, in her work with the military, that they have this term that's embrace the suck.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have to, and that's actually a healthier way of dealing with it. It doesn't mean getting lost in it and wallowing in it and giving up, but acknowledging, yeah, this shit sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I definitely want to get to, because this is coming up for me, but I want to continue on this realm really quick. I definitely want to get to how toxic positivity can be detrimental to others. So let's just take that and put that over here.
Okay.
And we'll address that before.
We should, yeah, for sure.
But I want to continue on this because I have so many things. I put, oh, yes. Why do people, okay, so this question is combined in what you just said. When you were saying bad things are happening, trauma is happening, or maybe OCD or mental health or whatever, and we're continuing to strive to be like, I'm happy. Why is it? Okay, this is a loaded question, but I'm just going to ask it anyway.
Okay.
Why do people need to minimize the bad? Why is it that people are saying it just can't suck? It just can't be bad. What is it in their brain that's saying, I can't do that. I have to strive for this or else?
I think there are a couple pieces here. One, and I think it's not just in our brain, it's in our society, which is this message that, pursue happiness. And I think back even my own journey and really diving into the positive psychology world is like, okay, the whole point of life is to be happy. And I have since revised that because it's a toxic message, because it's unrealistic. It's impossible to be happy 24/7. That's just not normal. Mm-hmm. It's not natural. And it's not possible is the thing. But we have that messaging, right? That we're supposed to be happy. So therefore, when something else comes up, whether it's anxiety or sadness or disgust or shame or embarrassment or whatever it is, we have this message of like, oh, I'm not supposed to feel this way. I shouldn't feel this way. And so then we're striving for happiness. But then what the twisted part that happens is when we're judging our reaction,
yes,
we're creating more of it. So it's like we're going in the wrong direction. And so I really think part of it is being open to the full range of emotional experiences. Humans have this whole range of emotions. 2/3 of them would be what we would consider negative or painful. Like we have more of those than we do the positive ones. And we got to be able to experience the whole range and to acknowledge this is why I'm feeling this way. It's a natural response to what's going on, typically. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I also think we're really averse to pain, right? Like, I mean, that's, if you think about physical pain, it's there to tell you like, stop doing that. That's causing damage. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of wired, or we learn really quickly, pain is bad, which we don't want bad stuff. So then, emotional pain registers the exact same way as physical pain. So it's like pain, bad. I don't want it. Get rid of it, fix it, without really, I think, understanding that those efforts to do so make it worse. right? Like OCD's compulsions, right? Sorry, what?
Where do the shoulds come in here?
Oh my God. Sorry.
I'm like, no, I'm like, I knew I was going to bomb it.
No, that reaction was
should bomb. Boom.
I think should is the worst word in the English language. And I have a soapbox about it because it's like, did you ever see Mean Girls, Lindsay Lohan? And then that.
Oh, yes, of course.
Should is the Mean Girls. Yeah. Yeah. Should is the Mean Girls of the English language because it sounds helpful, but it's not. It's the frenemy, right? So we have all of these shoulds. And I think, if I circle back to where we started, our brain, and I love to understand the neuroscience behind it, our brain has this job of keeping us alive. And doing so, that's the number one job. And then it wants to do it with as less effort as possible. It takes shortcuts. Shoulds are one of those shortcuts. It's just expectations about how things are supposed to be or the rules that we've learned. So we get these shoulds by society, our families, are the people we're around, our own experiences. And then our brain just is like, oh, should. I know what'll help you. You shouldn't feel that way. You should feel this way. You should do that. You shouldn't do that. And we should on other people too, which is a whole other issue.
This is a whole other fireside.
Yep. Yeah, but I think that it's such a problem because, a should is just an expectation. And I really think that distress comes when expectation and reality don't match. I think that's where a lot of distress comes from. And it's not that reality is necessarily the problem. It's our expectation that we had that should that's there. And we have those all about our feelings. I should be positive.
Right. So in thinking and just bringing it back to, by the way, I put should as the frenemy and I'm quoting you on Instagram. Okay. So in bringing it a little bit back to OCD, I'm going to tell you, Ashley, I have never heard more people use the term should than people with OCD.
I know. Well, and that's where this really came to light. And for me, it was where it really started to solidify was people I'd worked with for a while. And we had done the exposure work and they had done well, but there's still these pieces. And so I kind of start to look at it as, all right, there's OCD, you hit your, like the obsessions and the compulsions, but then we need to hit some of the underlying pieces. Self-criticism is like one of the biggest things. That's all the shoulds, right? The should is the inner critic and it is looking for all of the ways. And in my experience, working with people with OCD, I work with amazing people who are smart and compassionate and creative and have the biggest heart and the best memories. And all of that gets hijacked and used against you when you have OCD. So I have found that hitting that should piece is really, really important. And I do two things. Is one, that's a should, let's reword it. Because if you can't reword it without the should, then it's not helpful. Like, for example, I have a should, I should wear a seatbelt in a car.
Okay.
Cool. I can reword that without the should, and it makes sense. Like, I want to wear a seatbelt when I'm in a car because it keeps me safe and nothing bad is like, there's no downside of wearing it. Okay. I should never make a mistake.
That's a good one.
I want to be perfect, but that's not possible, right? Okay.
The should is exposing it.
Bingo. That's it.
Oh,
that's it. So we take
what you're doing there, Ashley.
Yeah. So we take that should out and see. And if you can't kind of reword it as like, I want to because, or this is how it is for real and believable, then it's just your brain. And so that's one thing. And that was probably the most beneficial thing I've learned in recent years was taking should out of my own vocabulary. Because if you start to pay attention, it comes out of our mouth. So I should have done that. I should have said this. Oh, I should. Ban should. I want it to be a red flag where it's just like, what if is a worry? Should is not helpful. And the other thing is for about 3 weeks, writing down your daily victories. Like the OCD brain is so good at pointing out all the ways you fall short, all of the things that went wrong. And again, that negativity bias, right? Like we start to notice and then we look for what we're noticing, but our brains, we can hack it. We can give it a new target, which is, hey, the things I'm doing well. So I love having people write down your daily victories. What did you do well? And the brain is going to say things like, you shouldn't write that down. There's a should again. That doesn't count. That's not big enough. You know what? Write it down anyways. And in about 3 weeks, maybe 4, you're going to start to notice a shift in self-criticism
Mm-hmm.
and start to be able to give yourself some credit. And that I find is then you're getting more toward that balance thinking. It's not the same as just be positive, right? Like, oh, I'm awesome at that. No, you're not. You should have da.
Mm-hmm.
So it's coming at it from a different angle. But those are two of my favorite ways to hit the shoulds. And I find it really, really helpful,
Well, that's amazing.
especially with OCD.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. This is great. Yay. I love the rewording it because
Oh, yeah.
I was like, okay, well, we could reword everything. And then you were like, boom, no, you can't.
Right?
You
Right?
can, but it's not going to make sense.
Bingo. It's either not true. I want to, like, I should go back and check 100 times. Can you say that as I want to check 100 times? Is that true? No, it's
Right.
not.
Right.
Yeah. And I got to give credit where it's due. I got that from Heather Smith, who's the other Dr. Smith in Kansas City who specializes in OCD, and we share an office. But when we first started working together years ago, we were in a session together, and she threw that out. And I was like, you're a genius. Thank you. So
thank you, Heather.
yes. Yeah.
And thank you, Ashley, for delivering it to all of us.
Yeah.
I'm going to work on that myself. I think that I have cut out a lot of shoulds in my life. I have, but they're still there. And even when you were saying the example of how you could be writing down and, journaling, or you can write down like all the things, my brain would have gone to, you shouldn't be in a position to have to write down this stuff. You should already have your shit together. Like, that's where my brain would have gone immediately.
Yeah, no, but that makes sense in the way that brains make sense. But yeah, it's not a helpful thing, right?
Well, right. So then the way that I could undo that is, okay, reword that. And then I would go, I want to get better. So I need to do something to not be stuck where I am. Okay. The should does not stand.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It makes no sense to think that that's not what I should do.
I know.
I'm miserable and I need help.
I know. I even like, I wish I didn't have to do this, but I'm human with a human brain, glitches and all, and it takes training.
It's almost cultivating self-compassion.
Very much so.
That's what it feels like, because it's taking, this burden off of maybe what the media or society or family or, just even comparative success to colleagues or friends. It's taking it off that and going, wait a minute, what do you want? Where are you right now? Which pulls all of that away. And then all of a sudden you're left with just self-compassion.
Yeah. And if we hit on that and kind of tying that with everything we're talking about, like I find, of course, as a cue for self-compassion, like, of course I'm feeling this way, which is very different than you shouldn't be feeling this way. Like, of course I'm feeling this way. My OCD is kicking my ass right now. Or of course I'm feeling this way. I'm seeing all this heartache and destruction in the world, or whatever it is, but kind of adding that. And that's different than just smiling and being a cheerleader, right? Like, of course you feel this way. And then it empowers you to do something about it. Right?
Yes.
And it is just sit there and like be compassionate with yourself or with others, or maybe you need to do whatever technique it is you need to do, or some self-care or something.
Yeah. This is like opened a portion of my mind up a little bit to like why it is that we're always striving for happiness, because happiness is about every other emotion that is the same as any other emotion. But I'm going to close that right now, because I think that needs to be put to the side.
Fair enough.
But I'm just letting you know that this is opening a lot of doors for me that are scary, but I need to go through. I wrote down a couple things. I love that you said, we're wired to notice the negative and to hold on to it. Okay, so this is something I wrote down. So when we're constantly trying to chase the positive, we always need to be happy. We always need to be okay. Everything always needs to be good, whether that's for ourselves or I think for the world around us. One of the things I wrote down is, I think for me, for a long time in my life, as a direct result of having OCD, but in general, it also masks or stops the ability to have healthy negativity.
Yeah.
So does that make sense, or am I just off base?
No, but I think so. If
I guess negative emotions may be a better thing. Like,
yeah, well, and that's exactly where my mind went, Chrissy. It was like okay, I'm going to put on my therapist hat for a minute. But if we kind of look at that ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, like that language, it's really what we're talking about is experiential avoidance. I don't want this internal experience. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to have this thought. I don't want this urge. And when the more we're trying to run away from those internal experiences, a couple of things happen. Is one, we get in these like feedback loops, right? The compulsions are, I don't want to feel this way. I don't want this thought.
mm-hmm.
The more you do it, the more you get. The more you do it, the more you get. But that's with anything, right? Like if we look at addiction, I'm going to drink to numb. Okay, but then you're going to have more pain. So what are you going to do? You're going to drink more. So you end up in these like self-amplifying loops, like these snowballs is what happens. And so that I think it's a big, big problem. And then the other thing, the really twisted part is the more you try to avoid negative emotions and negative internal experiences, it actually reduces your capacity to feel the positive ones too.
Oh, yikes.
Positive and negative feelings, like they're two sides of the same coin. So it's like if you got a quarter and you're like, well, I don't want tails. So you throw out the quarter. Well, you don't have heads either. And it's the same thing. So, and there's some research that pans that out of when people who really try to avoid feeling anxious, in particular, then when they feel joy or happiness, like they get it and it'll go up, but it goes away faster than with someone else. Wow. So part of, if you actually want more happiness and more positive emotions, you have to open yourself up to the other side of the coin. It's like saying, if you want more quarters, you got to take more tails. Wow. So I think you're right.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting to hear and process, and also feeds into the topic that I closed over here.
Oh, that's where I'm like, nope, that one's closed. That one's closed. Which is like, what is
Ashley, we would be here for another 3 hours if we were to open that floodgate.
Yeah, I know. We'll leave that one tucked away. We'll save it for another day.
I think for me, it was, and I don't know if this is standard for everybody. I do see this in a lot of people that have OCD, and just doing peer support to support them in their experience is a lot of people with OCD tend to be so black and white, which is, again, the same as the shoulds. They tend to be black and white, not only about their thoughts and what they should be thinking, but also how they should be feeling. I feel like a lot of people that I work with and myself have such an aversion to want it when we know we're going to have to experience big sadness or big anger. It's almost this, nope, I can't do this. And I don't know what that is. For me, I've kind of, through my life, this is what I've learned. If I was scared of it for so long, first of all, because I was told that it was wrong to have anger and to be sad, and you always had to be the proper, like, happy face and all that crap. But I also was scared, kind of like the same way that I was scared of intrusive thoughts. If I dive into this, what if I never come out of it? And what if I find out they're true? So whenever I would have a heavy, big emotion like sadness or anger, it was, I'm too afraid to dive into it. What if I can't ever get out?
Yeah, that's really common. It's really common. It's kind of this, if I open the floodgates, I'm going to drown.
Yes.
And that's a really common. So it's like, then I'm just going to shove it down. But like when it comes to natural emotions, meaning those are just the response to the situation, right? And every emotion has, from an evolutionary perspective, emotions are just shortcuts in our brain. They're a really quick way to give us a lot of information. Fear is danger. Sadness is, I lost something I cared about. Anger is, someone's doing something I don't like. Guilt is, I did something wrong. Shame is, I am flawed. So they've got these like built-in messages. And when they're the natural emotions, meaning like this is what this situation warrants, when you try to shove it down, it's like shoving a beach ball underwater. It takes a lot of energy and effort, but at some point it's going to like bop you in the face. So we have to stop shoving it down and let it come up. But it can't last forever. Those are like fires that never get stoked, right? So if you light a fire and you don't feed it anymore, it burns out. Those strong emotions, when you really confront them and let yourself feel them, they're going to pass. Now, in contrast, like manufactured emotions, which those are the ones that are created by our thoughts. right? So like when you have anxiety in response to an intrusive thought, or really that I shouldn't have this thought, or this thought is bad, or it's going to come true or something, then you have anxiety. That's not a natural anxiety. I use the term manufactured, meaning it's created by my mind, not in response to the situation. Those we handle differently. We don't want to just loop and feed it. You want to use your tools, exposure, mindfulness, self-compassion. But we gotta, I think in general, people, and part of what gives OCD such a stronghold, and not even just OCD, but I think a lot of issues across the board, it's an unwillingness to feel those painful natural emotions. I just want to feel good.
Absolutely. I love the beach ball visual, because the truth is that, yeah, if you're just playing around with a beach ball, and you're just like, oh, okay, here and there, it's not going to be, but it's painful. But if you put it all the way down and let go, it's going to kick you in the face.
Yeah. And that's what happens
when we suppress them.
Bingo.
Yeah. So let's move into the topic I put over here to the side, because I definitely want to also get to what can we do when we're confronted with toxic positivity with ourselves and with others, and it's making us feel bad. But first, that's going to be our last topic. Right now, let's talk about what do we do when we are surrounded with people who are just buying into toxic positivity, and it is hurting us. It's making us feel worse, whether that's family or roommates or really good friends or colleagues. What can we do to protect ourselves from being affected by that?
That is a fantastic question. And I thought when we put this topic over here was going to be more, why is it harmful to other people? Which is
we can do that too. Let's go there first.
No, but it's a good question. And it just is, because it's invalidating is what it is. It's like, if someone is really hurting and you're like, well, but at least it's sunny outside.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh.
It's invalidating. So that's an easy answer. But what to do about it when you're on the receiving end? Some of the thoughts that immediately go through my mind are, I'm a really big fan of crucial conversations, like having a direct conversation with someone, and to say, I understand, like, one, I'm going to assume positive intent. So I'm going to assume that they mean well, that they're not saying these things with the intention of hurting me, because then I can be more compassionate to everybody involved. So I'm going to assume they mean well and that they want to help. But it means having a direct conversation, which is really hard sometimes, is saying, I realize that you're trying to help, but these comments aren't helpful. What I really need is just a hug. I need you to say, that sucks. And the thing that goes through my mind is like, if you've ever lost someone really close to you, and then you get all of those, the well-meaning people who say things like, they're in a better place. This was part of, God's plan. And I'm like, I get why you're saying that, but really, when I talk to people, I don't think I'm alone in this. Sucks. That's not what you want to hear. What you want to hear is, I'm sorry.
That it is. It's lazy. That's right. I'm going to keep it real here. I feel like it's lazy. It's, instead of being able to meet someone where they're at, it's, what cliche can I say? Because I just need everybody to feel better. I feel like that really is the toxic positivity piece.
Well, and that's such a good point, Christy, because what it also is like, ooh, I don't want to go there with you, because then I have to feel that ick too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So really, and sometimes the best thing you can do, like, to help someone, is just be in that space with them. Not like, I see you down there, it's great up here, cool, but like, crawl down in that hole.
Don't worry, you'll feel better in a few months and realize this was for the best. Oh my God.
Right? But we also have this idea about fixing it, right? And I think about it too. Like, if you're a parent, you want to fix it for your kid. You don't want to see your kid struggle. If it's your spouse, if it's your partner, if it's your friend, we want to fix it. And our loved ones want to fix it for us. And I think that's also where it comes from, is either, I don't want to go there, I don't know how to go there, or I just want to make it all better, without realizing, but what you're trying to do is actually making it worse, not better.
Yeah. No, so just to kind of go back, the invalidating piece of how toxic positivity is harming people, in relation to what we just said, invalidation is, I think, one of the worst possible things you could ever do to anybody. ever.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't even know that we're doing it, but especially when it comes to someone who's feeling down and confronted with this, oh, just do this. Oh, if you just do that. And this is especially relevant, I feel like, this year, the past,
Mhm.
10 months in the pandemic. Nobody knows what to do. Nobody knows how long. Everybody's struggling in the certainty. And then you have people going, oh my gosh, like I lost 30 pounds because I did this, or we cooked together every night. And it's just made things better. Now, I'm not saying you are not allowed to celebrate things at all. But
Mhm.
what I'm saying is that, in projecting what you think people should be doing because it
That's
was
yeah.
easy for you.
That no, it was like in neon lights in my mind. That's just a should.
Yes,
That's just a should.
it
So
is. It is. Some people have flourished, and then other people have lost everything.
yeah. Well, and I think that really, like sticking with the should thing for a minute, the issue is the unspoken message with a should is that you are not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, right? And so when someone else is telling you that, well, you should do this and you should do that, which again, maybe it's intended to be helpful. The unspoken message is, I'm not good enough. I'm
Mm-hmm.
failing in some way. I'm doing it wrong, which again, you should just be happy. You should look on the bright side. If I'm not there, I'm not at that point in my journey, or I'm not able to do that, or the bright side is a teeny little speck, it just then it compounds it because it's great
Yes.
and I'm feeling this way and I'm not supposed to, which then our brain is like bad, wrong, and we're going to have anxiety or guilt or shame.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I was going to say. It
Mm-hmm.
compounds it. If you're already feeling horrible,
Mm-hmm.
then to have the added pressure of, well, if you just do this, you'll feel better, or you'll just get over this, or
Mm-hmm.
it minimizes what people
Yeah.
really are struggling with, which
Yeah.
goes right back to the invalidation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think too, if being on the receiving end of that, it would probably be really important to start to notice it, right? And I'm even thinking social media and Instagram in particular, and it can be a wonderful source of inspiration and motivation, but I think you got to be really, really careful about
Mm-hmm.
it. So if you're following things that are positive, notice what kind of effect do they have? Do they
Mm-hmm.
lift you up? You feel more heard, more motivated to do what you need to do to take care of yourself, to confront the hard challenges, to be strong? Or does it add to that spiral?
Mm-hmm.
In which case, don't follow it anymore. And in general, I'm not a giant fan of avoidance, right? Because, when it comes to anxiety, avoidance gets you more of it. But when it comes to people, I just call that boundaries. And
Absolutely.
we need boundaries with social media. And maybe there are people that you learn aren't the ones that you go to when you
Mm-hmm.
really need support. I mean, again, I go back to, I'm a big fan of have the direct conversation. People want to help. They just don't know how. And
Right.
sometimes we have to tell them. And that's hard if you're not even sure what you need. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it's okay to say, this doesn't feel really helpful if you could do this instead.
Right. Especially one-on-one in relationships. If someone
Mm-hmm.
is, when you're going to someone and saying, I'm feeling this way, I'm struggling, and they're like, oh, just stop being angry, or just do this. And I go for a walk, and then everything is better. And you're like, I've been to 10 walks today and nothing's better. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there
Mm-hmm.
was a shift in my advocacy actually about 3 or 4 years ago, where I started out advocacy going, there's hope and recovery is possible and everybody can recover. And but I didn't understand the message I was sending. The message I was sending was everybody can recover and be like me. I wasn't saying that, but what I was saying is, if recovery is possible for anyone, I don't know what your recovery looks like, but I'm projecting that recovery is me if I'm advocating for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I all of a sudden thought, this is harmful to people because my recovery is different than this person's over here and this and this and this. And so any word, if I'm saying all this and any word that comes out of my mouth and that person has a different experience, they're now going to compare themselves to me and say, I may not be in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And I also struggle in recovery still. And I never talked about it because of shame, because you shouldn't talk
Yeah.
about when you're not doing well. And but the more I started to open up about struggling, the more I connected with people, and it really did help motivate people to get
Yeah.
help or to ask for help or to feel like they're heard or to feel like it was normalized. So it was a good shift. It was a scary one, but it was a good one.
It's really scary to put it out there, right? And to kind of open ourselves up. And I think honestly, from a shame perspective, that's what I have found is the best way to reduce my own shame about things is to talk about it and put it out there and not hide it away like some shameful little secret, right? When you put it out there, it takes away. So for you, it was sharing some of your struggles. For me, it was sharing about vision, and it's made a big difference. But I also think too, I mean, I'm a big fan of building messages of hope. We need hope.
Yes.
But we need reality, right?
Yes, we need reality.
You got to keep it real. And I go back, I mean, I'm a behaviorist at heart and by training. And, we learn by watching people, even little kids, right? They learn, like, think about the toddlers who pick up mannerisms from their parents. We learn by watching others, especially people we see as similar to us. We learn more, like little kids learn more when they see the model struggle and overcome than when they just see them be perfect. So I think it's just part of the being real.
I think that's the balance, and also where it is important to keep in mind the toxic positivity is how do we inspire hope for people, but also be realistic, because if there's too much hope and not enough reality, we're setting people up for failure, and we're setting people up to really adopt shoulds instead of having like that balance where it's even of this could be your reality, but you can still retain hope. But it which goes to the topic that I don't want to open right now.
I know. That's where my head went. I was just going to say, it depends what you're hoping. Hoping I'll never feel this way again and life will be like rainbows and butterflies from here on out. That's unrealistic.
Yep.
Hope that things can get better, that you can get stronger, that you can change, that you can be in control of your life, at least in some capacities. That I think is very powerful.
Absolutely. So with that, we're getting into time. So I definitely want to give kind of final thoughts, but also I think what did I say earlier? Oh, you just wanted to talk. Well, I think we've covered it a little bit, but let's just reemphasize, what can we do when we feel like we're maybe, first of all, we're confronted now with, oh my gosh, I have been toxic positivitying myself all over the place. How do I get out of this? Or I'm in a relationship, or I'm in a job, or I'm somewhere where this is going on and I'm just realizing it. What are some things we can do to maybe start recognizing and also start to work on kind of getting ourselves out of it?
I think maybe I always start with awareness. So starting to recognize it and understand it, reframe it for what it is. Toxic positivity, not balanced thinking or a gratitude practice. So starting to notice that, I'd look for the shoulds. I'd look for the just, like that sounds like a should. You should just, right? Even if it's a silent should. So I'd start to look for those things in the messages, whether it's media you're consuming or in your relationships and conversations. I'm a big fan of having people, I mean, in your own life, you can all get on the should bandwagon together and start to do that. I love the self-compassion piece. Of course, I feel this way. It's normal and natural given the circumstances. Now, if it's not, okay, then that's a different story, but it's normal and natural to feel sad when there's been loss, anger when someone's doing something you don't like. So we got to start to look at, this is a natural way to feel, and it's okay to have a whole range of emotions. I really think we got to chip away at that. Happiness is the goal, and this idea that it's attainable. Happiness is fleeting, just like all of the other emotions. And to really look at that as more, I don't know, like my mind goes like, in investing, you want a diversified portfolio. We want the same thing with emotions too. So, and I think, have those hard conversations, be really brave to have those tough conversations. Because again, I assume the people in your life care and they want to help and they need that guidance. And if you don't have the conversations, then you're going to start to feel resentful, or you're going to like internalize it, and that's going to damage the relationship or damage you. So have a conversation.
I agree.
If it doesn't work, then maybe you find some other people to talk to about certain things.
Create boundaries. That person is not going to be the person I go to when I'm struggling with OCD or depression or anxiety, because when I go to them, they don't have they don't have the self-control or boundaries to be able to meet me where I'm at. And that's okay too. And I think that's hard for people to realize. I continually think about this. And when I let people into my life, you teach people how they can treat you.
Yeah.
And if you are setting boundaries and people are just like, no, I get to, it's my right to say what I want, then you're like, okay, well, then you don't get to be in my life. You don't get to be near me. You don't get to be part of my life. But if people are willing to listen and learn, I try to make myself open to being willing to listen and learn, because people are different. People need different things in order to feel supported and validated.
Absolutely. But there's a whole lot of shit wrapped up in boundary setting, and it's something we talk about a lot, but it's actually very difficult to do. But I think of it just like you do. We teach people how to treat us, what's okay and what isn't. And if we don't speak up, then they don't know any better.
Right.
And if you do speak up and they continue to do it, I think it's up to us to enforce it. Like, it's my job to enforce my boundary, not yours. Right. If I set this boundary and you try to cross it, I have to enforce it. And that might be saying, I'm really not going to talk about this with you, or this just isn't a good topic for us. In the case of support, it might just be, I don't go to you for this. I go to this person over here. And that's okay. And I think that's okay. We have a lot of expectations around our relationships and what they should look like. And you know how I feel about should.
Yes. And I think it's natural for people to test boundaries too.
Absolutely.
So, if you're going to try to set boundaries with people, of course, they're going to be like, are they really going to set this boundary with me? I'm going to push a little. And it is up to us to say, I've told you that this doesn't work for me. I'm just going to remind you again. I usually give people 2 chances, and then it's like, okay, we're done. I'm not like we're done with the relationship, but we're done. I'm done going to you for this, or I'm done with that. And it's, and I try to respect the same if people ask that of me. So,
exactly.
Well, this is a great topic. I think it's really good and really relevant to what everybody is going through right now. Everybody just, it's the beginning of the new year. Everybody's like, oh, I should be going to the gym, and I should be doing this, and I got to lose this weight, and I got to, you know what, right now, you don't have to should anything.
Oh,
Where are you? And the happiness thing, I got a lot to think about with that. Just really quickly to emphasize your point is, if we're looking at happiness as an aspiration, what happens is the disappointment if you reach happiness at some point and then realize it disappears.
Right.
And then you're continuing to chase a finish line that isn't there.
Right. Oh, and that's what is happiness? And is it just like hedonistic pleasure or meaning? Oh, yeah.
Or what have we been told happiness is, and have we adopted that? And is it really even part of our, okay, let's not even go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Side note, do you know, are you familiar with the work of Russ Harris? He's an actor guy in Australia. I love it. He wrote The Happiness Trap.
I have not read it, but everybody says it's amazing and I need to read it. So
he's great. And everything we've been talking about tonight, he does a beautiful job of explaining it. And he's got a lot of free resources on his website that I love his stuff. So
yeah, I need to read it. Everybody always recommends it. And I'm just not a book reader usually. So
yeah,
but I need to. Maybe if it comes out in audio, that would help.
Yeah, I was going to say, just don't make that a should. I should read. No,
I know. I just should.
I want to read. No, I don't. Okay. That's okay. There you go.
Thanks a lot, Ashley. My whole life would be better if I read The Happiness Trap.
Yeah, you really should. I don't know. If you would just do that, everything would be.
I am going to attempt to read The Happiness Trap because I heard that it was really good. But if I don't get to it in the next week or month or so, it's okay. It can just stay on my list.
You just tuck it in the back. Tuck it in the back.
Just rewrite the should.
Nice job.
Ashley, thank you so much for being here. Always a pleasure. I feel like we just tackled 3 more topics that we could do on Firesides the rest of the year. So
let me know.
I'll hit you up when I'm ready. To tackle these topics again. But thank you for everything that you do. Always a pleasure to hang out with you. And we just appreciate your support of Game Changers.
Thank you for having me. It's always fun.
Yeah. And thank you, everybody that joined us. I saw some comments over here, but we were just kind of deep into, oh, look, everybody's commenting on The Happiness Trap now. I'm still not going to show myself.
Don't.
Really appreciate you coming out for our fireside chat today. Thank you so much for being a community that supports Game Changers. We have lots of really cool stuff coming up. However, our next thing coming up is Monday Mavericks. We're going to have Nathan Peterson on, who does a lot of cool YouTube videos. So really excited to chat with him, see what his inspiration is, and I can't wait for you to meet him. So again, OCD is a 501c3. Please consider donating to us. All of our funding, every single penny, goes towards all of our initiatives and the things that we are doing to help create community and spread awareness for OCD. So I will see you on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye.